Alright guys, we're going to do a tutorial lap around the Le Mans circuit, which is very special. We're going to have the 24 hours of the Majors 24 hours event this weekend, and yeah, there are a couple of points, especially they're the ones that raises up the most controversy, which are the track limits. So we're gonna be reviewing all of that in special detail on this video. So buckle up and let's go onto the lab. First of all, we're going to start checking in how to properly start your quali lab because I'm gonna get into more details about the track limits here on the flying lap. But for now, the most important part that we're going to review when we're doing this is that this side of the track has no there are no triggers for any slowdowns, so you can open up to this side to start your flying lap, and yeah, you can build up a little bit more speed. So this is going to be a little bit more important when we are going to start reviewing the lap. Just make sure you don't clip the grass here, and that way we can start the flying lap, just making sure you don't get the slowdown on this curve that we will review in when we get to there on the flying lap. So this way we can start the flying lap and we are going to carry more speed. And all right, so when we are going to wrap 2-1, there are a couple of things that we can start looking at. Some drivers tend to go into this direction. I tend to stay to the left, just because I use as timing the moment that the asphalt changes colors to a darker one. So once it changes to the darker one, at that point, I count a little bit later. I start doing the turning, and for first, what we have to check is that there is a big bump that we have to be careful on. As you can see, the way that the track, like the curve, does like a funny line here. In this point, there is a big bump, and the way we brake, it's going to be very important because when we brake, of course, the whole car is going to go down. And well, from the far chase, we can also check that here is right where the pump is. And when we go over there, the car, if we brake too much, the car is going to like go down too much, and the rebound is going to be way more aggressive. So when we travel through that part, we're going to be building up the braking pressure slowly but surely, and that way the car just will not snap, and it's going to go more smooth through that section, right? Um, for first, we have to check the track limits around here. Basically, if you put your four tires on this side of the track, this is going to trigger this slowdown. So don't place your four tires here. Also, this part of this texture of the track doesn't have as much grip as the asphalt. So when you want to do the trailing, you want to especially go from the white lines to the inside here, and that's where the most of the time is going to be. So we do the hard braking on this texture part of the track, and we're going to start doing the trailing when we send the car here to the inside. You can use as reference this mark, the total thing, to send the car here to the inside, and then we're going to travel here to the first corner. The track limit here is quite special. It's basically one tire on the curve at all times. And there's another condition is that if one of your tires touches the sand, it's going to be a slowdown as well. But we can get an advantage because if we check how the tire is because of the setup, we can see that there's a lot of camber on the tire, and if we go from below, we can see that the tire is well, there's more contact on this zone and not a lot on that zone. So this one might look that it's going into the sand, but actually it's not touching the sand, so we are not triggering that condition. And that way we can be more onto the sand, as you can see here, without it getting into the activation, basically. And we are we are having one tire here on the curve, so we are completely fine. So, with the first track limit reviewed, we're going to send the car here to the next corner. Basically, here the slowdown trigger is if one of your, I mean, if your four tires are not in the white line. Here is the white line, so just be careful here when you are sending the car to the inside. You have to have at least one tire in the track, so you can have three tires on this zone. But if one of your tires is touching the white line, you're completely fine. So it's completely okay when you're traveling through this zone, like what's happening here. And the most hard one for me is this one, because this is not really how you place your tires or if you are over the white line or not. It's deeper than that. So basically, if and this is kind of like the same track limit that is happening on Daytona. You can see the shoulder of the driver here. If the shoulder of the driver is touching the curve, you are completely okay within track limits. Or basically the center of the car in the edge of the curve. If the center of the car goes to this side, then it's off track immediately. So that's why you can see sometimes that even though the car is on the curve, you can still get the slowdown. So basically is if the shoulder of the driver is completely off the curve, and then it's a slowdown. So yeah, you can have another reference, and this is way more detailed when you're driving. So when you're driving and going over this curve, if, and this is what I use when I drive, if the curve is between those two lights, then you're okay. Then that's completely fine. So that's what I use in as reference when I'm traveling through this sector, and this is pretty okay. And this is the most consistent way I found. So yeah, that's what I do when I do this section. So yeah, so looking at the track limits of the first two corners, yeah, we are going to be it's going to be like that for the rest of the track. Like some track limits are going to be some track limits are going to be the curves. Sometimes some track limits are going to be the white line, and other track limits are going to be the center of the car. Basically, this is the three ways that you can get a slowdown or off track on any track. On some tracks, it's more defined, like you can have only one tire between the curve, and sometimes in the white line, and yeah. But basically, these are the three ways that you can get an off track or slowdown in any track. We're going into the next corner. You stay tight here. You don't want to run too much meters. Once your car is straight, like parallel to the white line, you're gonna brake softly and you're gonna send the car here to the inside. As you can see here, the curve has two textures. This one is bouncy, and the other one is more like asphalt. And what I want you to do is that this part of the curve, the second part, has another angle. So I want you to follow that angle and not this one. So I'm gonna be on that texture of the curve, and then I'm gonna start throttling to follow completely the angle of the next corner, and that I can go tight and just full throttle all the way. Now reaching to the next corner, I use as reference this white line. This white line, just a tiny bit later, I'm gonna brake, and you can see that there is a lot of space between the grass and the white line, and you can see that later on, it goes a little bit. It opens a bit, like on this zone. Here it opens a bit, so you can use more track here when you send the car here to the inside. So, using that, as you can see here, I'm gonna turn there when there is more track to use, and I'm gonna send the car here to the inside. Here, the off track and slowdown is, as explained before, one tire always on the asphalt. One tire always on the asphalt. So you cannot cross the white line with your four tires. So you can see at this point that I have three tires over the white line, but then when this one is about to cross the white line, the left front is going back to the track, so there's always one tire on the asphalt and there's no track limits violations. And the same happens here. The track limit here is not the curve; it's this the drain, the water drain. So yeah, as long as you keep one tire here on the water drain, you have to be careful to return to the track before the curve ends. So by the time that the curve is ending, I need to have one tire on the asphalt. So following that, this way I completely nailed the track limit on the route. All right, so we reach now the straight. We're going to be on the center of the track and try to go as less meters as possible. And we say hi to the KFC there. um, Now we reach for the first chicane. We're going to stay all the time here in the center of the track, and now we're going to break between the 200 and the 100 meter mark. I'm going to use this orange mark, and also I'm going to use here. There's a big bump. Here there's a big bump. So what I want you to do is after the bump you brake. What I'm doing is I'm going a little over that. Like I don't put my tires here at this point. I put my tires there after the bump. So I'm gonna go a little bit over. You can see there how big the bump is. Yeah, so just be careful about that. And after that, I'm going to brake here. I'm going to brake softly. I'm going to build the pressure softly here. I'm going to send the air to the inside. And we need to check already how the track is because there's a lot of elevation changes when you're facing this corner. If we see the track the way that it is, you can see that the highest point of the track is the center. These ones are the outsides are wait, here's better. The outsides have less height. So what we are going to do when we send the guard here to the inside, we are going to do a little uphill here to the center of the corner. Then we're going to do a little downhill after the center of the corner. Then we're going to do a little uphill again because we're facing the curve. And then we're going to do another downhill again after the curve. So there's going to be a lot of elevation changes, and it's really important on how we play with the weight of the car. Because because we need to be... Oh, that happens more than you think. When you're facing the corner here, you have to be very careful on how you play with the weight of the car. So, of course, when you brake, the weight is going to be loaded to the front because, well, the more brake you do, the more weight is transferred to the front. And these tires are going to be unloaded, right? So, when that tires are going to be unloaded and when I turn the wheel, the weight is going to be on the front and on the left because I'm turning to the right, right? So this tire, especially the rear right, is going to be really, really, really unloaded, and we can double check if we check from below the ground that when we travel through the center of the track, you can see that the tire is losing a lot of contact because we are doing the little uphill. Then when we cross the center of the track, we're going a little bit downhill, and all the weight there is no weight on the rear. All the weight is basically on the front left because of course when we are turning to the right. So yeah, you can see that there's going to be a lot of ABS activation because there's no contact of the tire to the track because all the weight is on basically one tire. But technically the weight is going to be on the front left, there's going to be little weight on the front right, and there's going to be little weight also on the front on the rear left. But the rear right is not going to have enough support, so you have to be very careful when you transit through the center of the corner because with all the elevation changes, this tire is going to lock and then you're going to spin. It's going to feel like a handbrake. So yeah, you have to be very careful with how much steering you're using, how much brake you're using, how bumpy is the road, and yeah, basically that. So when you send the car here to the inside, you can track that I'm releasing the brake quite a lot when I'm going through the center of the corner. And yeah, especially there when I go over the center of the corner. And now we're going to be reviewing. So we need to be monitoring about how bumpy the track is. And now we have to check the track limits. So the track limits are going to be basically, you can follow this. This is going to be the line. The track limits are going to be if you touch the curve when it begins and with your rad tires, and if you touch, I mean, if you touch the curve when it begins, like on this point with your right tires, but you don't touch the curve at all with your left tires, it's going to be completely okay. It's going to be okay, and you're not gonna have any off track. But if your left tires touch the curve, or your right tires don't touch the curve when it starts, it's going to be a slowdown. That's gonna be pretty key when you're transiting over this zone. So I make sure to touch the curve when it begins, and also I make sure I don't touch the curve with my left tires to not trigger the slowdown. And I try to be as tight as here as I can. And also on a side note, I completely release the brake when I hit the curve, so I don't want to like, because all the vibrations or when the tire go up and down, it's going to lose contact on the track. And if it loses contacts on the track, like I explained before, you're going to trigger the ABS. And when you trigger the ABS, you're going to like either understeer, oversteer, or not brake enough. So yeah, be take care of that. And since we are doing a weight change on the next corner, we don't need any lockup. So yep. Okay, so with the track limit here completely verified, we're going to be facing the next corner. I'm going to brake when it's completely on the asphalt, so I don't want to have any oscillation on the tires or any bump at all. So I'm going to be braking here, and I'm going to make sure also my right tires are not going into the curve. If my right tire touches the curve, it's going to be the slowdown, and here I can cut as much as I can without, of course, touching the curve with my right tires. And this track limit is quite special. It's quite special because you cannot touch the. I mean, it doesn't matter if you don't touch the start of the curve here, but as long as you go back to the track completely straight, it's going to be completely fine. And that's going to be really key. Like, I suggest you to start turning the steering wheel after you go over the curve, and that way you don't get the slowdown on the exit of the corner. So we stay on the center of the track again. We're going to be reaching the second corner. I mean, the second chicane, sorry. And this is more of the same. This section is going to be really bumpy, so we're going to start monitoring on that. So I'm going to brake a little bit before the 100-meter mark. I send the guy to the inside. And here we have to start checking on how the curve is particularly, because of course there's going to be all the elevation changes like I explained before, so you have to be careful with that. Basically, you start releasing the brake when you're going over the center of the corner, and here we can check something really special, the way the curve is, because the curve is big here, you can see it's plain there, it's big here, and it's plain a little bit ahead. So it's going to be really key on when we go back to the track because we don't want to have a lot of bumps after the curve. So we are going to be we cannot avoid the big bumps on the start of the curve, but we can control how bumpy the car is after the curve ends, because you can see there is like a big edge here, but there are not big edges on this side of the curve. So yeah, the car is not gonna bounce too much. It's gonna transit like normally. Here the track limit is basically if your right tires touch the curve, it's going to be slow down, so don't. And for the next corner, it's going to be the same. If your left tire touches the curve, it's going to be slow down. So just be careful to not do that. And just be careful here. You can see, especially at this hour in the sim, that there is like some sort of shadow here, right? I don't know if you can check that. Here you can see it has like a different color. So right here there's a big bump. So don't go over that bump with full throttle. I go over that bump with like 80, 90%, and after I land I go 100. So that's gonna be really key because if you throttle too much, when the tires jump and stay on the air a little bit, if you throttle too much, the tire is going to spin too much, and it's going to make the other tire spin too much as well in response, and then you are going to oversteer, have a little slide or spin. So yeah, and you can open as much as you want here, but it's really important on how you go back to the track again. On this position, you can see again there are a lot of edges on zones that are quite plain, and other edges and zones that are quite plain. So what I want you to do is to follow that lines to go back to the track, so you don't bounce too much, and that way the car doesn't bounce too much, and you can turn completely fine. So now we reach to the next corner. This is going to be really key because there is a bump that is going to annoy us quite a lot when we're traveling here. I'm going to start braking right when the curve begins, using all the track possible. Just make sure the car is going to be braking okay on the asphalt, but in this zone, once you lock the tire here and then you trail to the inside, if you lock the tire on this zone, it's going to be locked completely until the apex of the corner, so just make sure to not abuse too much about the outside part. I just clip a little bit and then I release quite aggressively, you can see, because the tire is going to lock here. And if you trail with the tire locked, and it's going to understeer quite a lot, and that's not what we want. So when I reach the cone, basically, I release the brake quite a lot, quite quickly, and I send the guy here to the inside. There's going to be a bump here. There's going to be a bump here, so let's keep that in mind. And the track limit here is your left tires are on the curve, but just be careful because compared to the other corners, you can hear the curve or you can feel it on the steering wheel, but this is asphalt. This is asphalt, so you cannot really feel it. It's gonna trigger the slalom quite out of the blue. So you can see here how the car bounces, boom, especially here. And I suggest you to start throttling after the bump. Like you carry a lot of speed on the turn in and then you throttle, or you open way too much and then you throttle. Both ways are basically almost at the same time. But for me, the most consistent one is just waiting for the bump and then just button throttle completely, like 0 to 100 without sliding or anything. And on this straight, you can place your car wherever you want. There's no time loss. I just try to go over as little meters as I can. And we are reaching to Indianapolis. Indianapolis is quite fine, and here we find the imposter of the track. These green things, these green patches, I don't know if it's green or what color what it is, but this has no grip at all. Absolutely no grip. And whatever you do here, just try to be as smooth as you can. Like you can place your car here, like there's no issue, but don't brake too much. Don't turn too much the steering wheel because the car is going to snap. There's not really much grip, and you can hear how the sound of the texture changes. It's weird. But here you send the car here to the inside. You don't release too much the throttle. You want to stay at throttle because it might snap. And here you want to use a little bit of curve, just a tiny bit. And once you are on the curve, you can start braking. You're gonna start braking slowly and even. And here we have to analyze the way the track is, because you can see from the asphalt there is some banking degree when you make the corner, but if you check to the outside, here the track is falling on that direction, but the track is falling on this direction. So if you place your tires here, it might understeer because it might take more effort to go in the little uphill than downhill to make the corner. So I place my I place my car here on the asphalt only. Like you can place your car here, but it's going to require more braking. And I place my car here to the edge, and then I send the car basically when the curve ends, and I send the car here to the inside, just with a tiny trailing here to make the corner. I don't touch the curve because again the curve has opposite banking, as you can check here. the curve is falling on this direction and the track is going into that direction. So if you place your tire here, it's going to cause understeer a little bit. So keep that in mind. And then you send the car here to the inside and make the corner. Now we reach to our notch. We're going to brake a tiny bit. What I used to do is I want my left tires to hit this part of the curve, and I want my right tires to be on this part of the curve. So yeah, that's the connection I do. So my right tires go on the first mark I set, and my left tires go on the second mark I set, and that I can just be careful because this curve is quite high also. So if you cross them with too much steering wheel, like if you turn too much the steering wheel, the car is going to load too much to the left, and it might bottom out. So be smooth over that curve, and then you send the car here to the inside. You can use almost all the curve here on the inside, and then pick up throttle slowly because the track is the surface of the track is quite bouncy, and then you can just throttle completely out of the car. Now we reach to the porch corners. And we have another imposter here. We're going to have another. We're going to have another green patch. Here we can use it, but we don't want to use it too much because, as I said before, I'm going to be really smooth over here. So I'm going to brake softly, and after the green patch, I'm going to turn the steering wheel. But I want to be basically I want to be here. I want my tires to be at this point so I can use the whole asphalt for the benefit. Because if we check also from the nose camera, we can check that again the track is falling on that direction and the corner is already giving me banking on this direction. So I'm gonna send the car here to the inside. I want to use all the track I can, and you can see also we can take as advantage that the asphalt is making a weird turn here, so it's going to give me more grip when I'm going into the curve. As you can see, the asphalt is like going sharper than the curve. It's weird, but I'm gonna use all the curve here to my advantage. Use throttling softly to keep the car in control. And again, you have to check. You don't want to use too much. I mean, too much track here because the track is falling on that direction, on this point, on this direction. So if you open too much, and then you want to make the next corner and you want to open more track, it's going to take more effort. So I want you to place the car like at 3/4 of the track, like maximum on this side. One maximum you can use is this part of the track. I don't want you to use this zone. This zone, no. I don't want to use that. So I prepare the car here to make the next corner. And here is again quite tricky because although there is grass here, the left tires is never in contact with the grass. So yeah, you can cut a lot here. And here there is a lot of time. So yeah, you can place your car there. Your left tires are never going to touch the grass here unless you cut too much. And you use all the track here. Just be careful because this curve is quite high. Don't get too confident with this one. I use as max this edge of the curve that I'm using to get into the curve, but if you hit this zone, it's going to launch you to the wall. And I don't want you to do that. So yeah, I'm going to be very careful when I'm hopping into this curve. Don't take too much confidence on it. And as you can see, I'm doing all the weight directions with the steering wheel as after I exit the corner, I put my steering wheel as straight as possible to shift the weight, so the car just responds quicker to what I want to do. Here I use a little lift, and here when I brake, I have the moment I'm braking, my steering wheel is completely on the center. There, completely on the center. Now I send the car here to the inside of the corner. Just some tiny corrections with the brake to stay as tight as I can. Just slight throttle I'm going to use, And for this corner, I'm not gonna use too much brake, just aggressive lifting, just an aggressive lift to make the car here to send the car here to the inside. And this corner is quite tricky again, because here is completely plain, I can say. Like there's no banking, but here the banking is on that direction. So if you miss this part of the track, the car is just going to understeer a little bit. So what I want you to do, because the track limit here is, if I recall, wait, if I recall, yeah, if I recall, the track limit here is the again the shoulder of the driver. So if the shoulder of the driver crosses the white line, it's going to be slowdown. So yeah, basically to not get the slowdown, what I want you guys to do is to be as tight as you can to the sausage curve, but don't touch the sausage curve. So that way you don't get the slowdown. And that, yeah, you don't get the slowdown. You use a little bit the banking that you have here on the inside, and yeah, the car is just going to rotate. And here, if your car is out of the white lines when the curve ends, it's going to be a slowdown. So you have to be back onto the track when the curve ends. So here I opened a little bit, but my front left got back into the track when the curve ends, so that way I'm completely fine, just on the edge of the curve. And now we're reaching the 4 chicanes. We are going to completely send it here. We're going to place the car diagonally here to when we start braking, so that way the weight is completely onto the center and it's going to react better to the weight shift that we do. So I'll open a little bit the track here. I'm gonna send the car heat completely to make the corner, and we have to check the shape of the curve here, because you can see it has like two levels. It's going up, then it's going down, and what we want to use is this part of the curve. Here is what we want to do, because this one is helping you to make the pit stop. So if you go through here, it's going to be like a ramp and you're going to jump, and that's what we don't want. So I'm going to use that part of the curve completely diagonally here, completely diagonal, and I'm going to send the guy here to the inside. Here the track limit is quite special. Same as T2, you have two limits here. Either you touch the sand or you have one of your tires out of the white lines. Here, it's really on the limit. You have to have only one tire on the white line, so that way you don't trigger the slowdown. So this is really as much as you want to use. Here you can see I cut first with the first three tires the inside, and then when the rear right is crossing the white line, the front right goes back to the track, and again I have always one tire back into the track. When I send the car here to the next corner, it's going to be the same idea. One tire here on the white line all the time. Here you can cut a little bit more actually. And then we prepare for the next corner. It's going to be the same idea. One tire in the white lines all the time. And the only track limit that changes is the next one. Because the next one is the curve, it's not the white line. If you completely have no tires on the curve, it's going to be slowdown. But here you can completely send it over the curve without having any slowdown. Just have to be careful, because if you turn too much the steering wheel, the car is going to be too much loaded to one side. And if it's too much loaded, you're going to hit the sausage curve, and that's what we don't want. And that is an explanation about how the track limits work on the track, and how you play with the weight of the car to face all the corners. You have to really check how bumpy the track is, how much weight you're loading into the tires, how much steering wheel you're using, and how you brake and how you throttle. So yeah, I hope this guide really helps you, and see you in track.